Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen. This video was meant to start with a twin turbo 370 GT on the dyno, but something happened. I'll open the hood / bonnet and give you a bit of a look. Oh no! What's happened? So, I guess I better fill you in. I replaced the thermo fans the other day. The new old thermo fans arrived that I bought from a wrecker off a 370Z. Awesome. They look very new compared to my old ones. They work fantastically. I installed them and it's all great. I thought, righto, everything's good now. I can get the thing booked in for a dyno. Where I live, there is one really good tuner, and he's just flat out all the time. He seems like a really decent guy. Spoke to him a couple of times and I wrangled a spot in on his dyno to get him to tune the car for me, and I was just absolutely stoked to be able to have gotten into such a good renowned tuner in the area, who from all reports is just the guy to get to tune the car. So anyway, I thought, yeah, this is awesome. Talked to him a few times. It was originally going to be 2 weeks to get the car in because he's so busy, and after chatting to him a few times, he's like, bring it up tomorrow. So I thought, yep, sweet. But before I take it to him, I'll go right over the car once again to make sure that there are no issues, because as I mentioned before, you don't want to have issues when the car's on the dyno. It's just shithouse for everyone. So I was going over the vehicle. What I was actually doing was I was checking the thermo fans, checking all the different operation of the thermo fans, and to do that you have to have the ignition on, which primes the fuel pump. And at one stage I thought, oh, that's really odd, I can smell fuel. So I started sort of sniffing around and sort of trying to follow this vague fuel smell that I could only sniff occasionally, but I thought, no, fuel, I shouldn't be able to smell any fuel, something's not right. So I started sniffing around at the front of the vehicle, and I could sort of have a bit of a sniff under the inlet manifold, and that's where the smell was coming from. So straight away I thought, injectors. Because I'd had a little bit of a hassle fitting the bigger injectors into it, which were supposedly a bolt-in fit, which weren't, as most shit kind of never is, and I had to make up spaces on my lathe and all this sort of stuff for them. I thought, maybe I've buggered something up and one of the injectors is leaking. So I thought, well, it's booked in for the dyno tomorrow now. After all the harassing that I've done to this poor bloody bloke to get the car in there, I thought, I've got to get this thing fixed. So long story short, I started pulling the car apart into the night and thought, yeah, I can work out what's wrong, get it fixed, get it back together so I can get it up to him in the morning. So, I got the top part of the inlet manifold out and everything, left all the injectors and everything in, thought, okay, well, now the thing's back together basically, I can just prime the fuel system, get in there with a torch and look for a leaking injector, so which I did. I primed the fuel system, got in there, look around the injectors, it's like, none of the injectors are leaking. Couldn't see anything dripping from anywhere, but I could still smell fuel. So what I ended up tracing it back to was one of the fuel pulsation dampeners on the fuel rails. So I thought, bloody great. I'll have to get this out and have a look, see what's going on. Hopefully it's just an O-ring or something like that. So anyway, I pulled the fuel rail out, and I've got the fuel rail on a table over here at the moment, so we'll go and have a look at the fuel rail. Alrighty. Here we are. So this is our fuel rail, folks, upside down. This is the front, this is the back, that's where your fuel injector harness plugs in there. And this is your fuel pulsation dampener on this side, and this is the one on this side, which looks like this. It just has an O-ring and a sort of a spacer. Whoop. And it fits into there. And this little device here, it's just sort of a clamp that keeps the two halves sandwiched together. So initially thought, yeah, no worries, I'll just I'll get another O-ring for it. So I started sort of dicking around with the O-ring, because it does seem that it's a little bit stretched. But what I ended up coming to the conclusion was that it wasn't actually the O-ring, that it's the dampener is actually leaking between these two halves, where the thing is sort of made out of two pieces that are sandwiched together, and then this lip here is folded over, and there must be some sort of a seal in there, but that's where it was sort of leaking from. I took it on and off a few times and dicked around with it with a few different things, and no matter what, I just couldn't stop it leaking. Like I said, initially I was looking at the O-ring, replace the O-ring, put it back together and stuff, and it was still dripping and all this sort of thing. So yes, fuel pulsation dampener, and I must say when I got the fuel pulsation dampener off, it was quite dirty looking, like it had quite a lot of fuel residue on it, whereas the one on the other rail is absolutely spotlessly clean. So I didn't notice it when I was changing the injectors, but I think this may have been leaking for a while, and you know, because I'm not normally sniffing around in the engine, and it was only like a very slight weepy sort of a, not even a drip, it was just sort of a weeping thing, you know, like you could just sort of smell it. And so yeah, but obviously not the sort of thing that you want going on the dyno. If the tuner would have sort of got a bit of a whiff of that, we would have just had to shut the whole thing down and investigate it. So it was the best thing overall, but unfortunately this is a Nissan genuine part, and I've mentioned before I'm not exactly in the middle of a big city or anything, so I had to order one of these through my local Nissan dealer, and they obviously don't stock it, and no one in the local area stocks it, even in the state. So it had to come from Victoria, from Melbourne, and be shipped up here. So now I'm playing a bit of a waiting game. I ordered it on Thursday, and they told me it won't be here until Monday. I've also ordered new O-rings and new O-rings where the fuel rail connects up and all that sort of stuff, so there's no chance I'm going to have any dramas again. But it's put me way behind the 8-ball. I've lost my spot with the tuner. After all the begging that I did to get the car in, I had to ring him up and say, oh, you know, I've got a fuel leak, sorry, which is quite embarrassing. So yeah folks, the shit's hit the fan, unfortunately, so I'm stuck waiting on a fuel pulsation dampener, and hopefully I've got enough time to wait out this, get the fuel pulsation dampener, get the car back together, and continue this video in a few days' time when everything's done and the car is heading up to the tuner. So just bear with me at the moment, folks. Bit of an interruption, playing a bit of a waiting game. Bloody Murphy's Law always comes into play with things like this. Everything was going so well, other than the hiccup with the thermo fans. It was like, yeah, this is just going to be sweet. Everything, you know, it all sort of went together so well and fired up so well. And it's like, oh, this is unstoppable. But stuff just happens. What do you do? So anyway, folks, apologies, but this video may not come out in the week following the previous one. I may have to skip a week and maybe do another video to fill in between. So if you're seeing this now and you're wondering why the hell I put out a video on whatever it was last week, this is what's going on. So bear with me, folks. Hopefully the next time I turn the camera on, I'll either have the parts or have the car back together, and we will just bloody well carry on from there. So I'll see you shortly, folks. Monday afternoon, folks. The parts are in. Not a minute too bloody soon, let me tell you that for nothing. So, that's it. There's our O-rings. There's our nice new one. Nice new one here. A leaky bugger there. And there's the O-ring, which I had to order separately too, folks. They don't come with an O-ring, which is pretty friggin' retarded if you ask me. But what do you do? A little bit of oil. A little bit more oil. And we should go in with these. One would hope. There it is. a little weird clampy thing. I'll just give that a little clean, I think. You can see the fuel residue all over it, folks. Sign that it's obviously been leaking for a while. I'll go and quickly clean that up. It's a bit better. Not perfect, but certainly a lot better. Alright. This just kind of expands over it, folks. There's a little slot for it to sort of sit in. So it can only sort of go in the one spot. That's it, I think. Maybe. No, that's not it. That's it. That's the one. Now our other O-ring here, this is for the fuel feed that goes into the front of this when we get that back together. I just sort of, like it's a $3 O-ring. Last thing I want to do is get this all back in and then have this O-ring leaking where it's where it joins into the fuel rail, you know. No thank you. So I might just put a tiny little bit of grease on these injector O-rings. Sorry, a tiny bit of oil on these injector O-rings. Just to help it all go back without pinching anything, because it's a little bit awkward. You've got to kind of get everything in one go. A little bit awkward to get all this sort of back together in the one go. Particularly with these little spaces that I made on there. They don't make life any easier. Alrighty. Nice and careful when you're putting these in, guys. You've got the O-rings in there, you don't want to pinch them on the edge of the injector boss. Quite easy to do if you're not careful. Really not something I want to do. Just kind of twirly whirly rock them in. There we go. Alright. We're in, folks. Hopefully we haven't pinched anything. So this is where the other little O-ring goes, folks, that I ordered. It just goes on your fuel rail connection there. Wasn't leaking here at all or anything, but I just said, oh well, you know, I've had it on and off a few times. Rather than have another potential fuel leak, I might just replace that O-ring, which is what I've done. So I want to give it a bit of pressure. It's all good. All good. Fuel rail's connected. Yep, I think we should be alright. Looking pretty good, folks. No drips. Nothing from the rail. I think we've nailed it, folks. I think we've nailed it. on the blast. Bump it up a little bit. It's looking good, folks. No residue. We do appear to be sorted. It's looking good, folks. I'll get the inlet manifold back on and we'll be bloody good to go once again. Sorry folks, I'm going to have to move you again. This camera is so in my way. So in my way. And there it is, gentlemen, all back together and up and running once again. Been out on another couple of little test drives. Everything appears to be fine. Now I'm in a bit of a predicament. As I mentioned, I lost my spot with the tuner, so now I'm playing a bit of a waiting game. I do have the thing booked in again, but not straight away. It's currently Tuesday and I have the car booked in to go back to the tuner, or to the tuner for the first time now. On Thursday, I'm getting it taken up on a flatbed. I was actually going to drive it up there, but I've changed my mind, even though it is drivable, and I have done quite a bit of tweaking with the fuel maps and stuff. I just like to avoid any potential issues that could come up in the drive. I've sort of lost a bit of confidence with these little issues that have happened on actually driving it up there. I think it would be safer all around if I just get it taken up on a flatbed. So, tow truck's booked to come and pick it up. It's booked in for the tuner. So in the meantime, I'm just doing a couple of other things, folks. I don't know if you'd be interested, but I'm going to show you anyway. So I'm currently in the process of painting a couple more wheels, folks. These are a set of rears. I did have two sets of wheels for the car. As you probably know from seeing the car previously, the wheels have been painted and I painted them myself. As I say, these are another set of rears which will give me a square setup. These are 19 by 9s, which are the factory coupe rear wheels. And if you look over here, I've got a set of Toyo R888Rs, which are going to be going on the car, just to sort of give me a little bit more traction. And down on the table there, you might notice there are a couple of badges, which I'm also painting in the same colour as the wheels. You'll notice the car's debadged, which I'm not a huge fan of. I only actually debadged the car so I could repaint the boot lid and spoiler. I didn't actually like the chrome badges. I wasn't prepared to put them back on the way they were. Hence the reason I've been waiting till I've been painting something else in the same colour to then paint the badges and reapply them, you know. So this is how I'm keeping busy to pass the time, folks, in the wait leading up to getting on the dyno. So apologies once again, folks, for not having this thing on the dyno yet. As you've seen, things happen that are out of your control sometimes, and honestly it's part and parcel of building a car. There's always teething problems, you know, things don't always go to plan, but overall I think everything's gone reasonably well with this build. So hopefully the next video, folks, the next video will be the trip to the dyno. So we'll leave this here, and as always, folks, thanks for stopping by the Aussie Shed. Bloody pleasure to have you here. If you like my content, remember to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, all that sort of stuff. If you'd like to support the Aussie Shed, which allows me to devote more time into making all these videos and all that kind of stuff, there's PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar, links in the description. I've also just launched the Aussie Shed Facebook page too, folks. So what I'm going to do with that is just use it to put any updates on stuff that's going on behind the scenes, such as what's been happening here, so I can just keep you guys informed so that you're aware of what's going on when I don't put out a YouTube video, or just to give you a bit of a heads up on what's happening behind the scenes, so you're more aware of upcoming videos and all that sort of stuff. So the Aussie Shed Facebook page, that's where you can get some updates. And as always, folks, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.